podcast. This is a video podcast where we help you make conscious decisions around different design elements so that you can find and refine your style as an artist or designer. And today with me I have Scott Erickson, or Scott the Painter. Scott, can you tell the people a little bit about yourself? Who are you? What do you do? Can you encapsulate all of Scott in just a couple of minutes?
Yeah. Well, I'm 5'11". I wear mostly black clothing because it's slimming and it represents my melancholiness. I live in Vancouver, Washington, which is just over the river from Portland, Oregon. We like to call ourselves the top half of Portland. I make my living as a vocational artist, which is like taking a vow of poverty. So I'm really spiritual, and I tend towards like spiritual stuff. You know, the conflict of my career is I don't care to try to help an institution win. You know what I'm saying? Like, I'm not here for any like institutional religion or anything to take over the world. I think that I'm part of a long history of women and men who find themselves in a mysterious world, also a Madonna material world, and I am translating that experience. I'm trying to make an iconography for like the spiritual experience. And granted, the tradition I come from is mostly like a Judeo-Christian viewpoint, so I know a lot of those stories and stuff, but I am incorporating and learning from other stories as well. I'm less of a medium-forward artist and more of a meaning-forward artist. So I really, whenever I'm tackling like a concept or an idea, I'm just like, what's the best outlet for this? Is it a series of downloadable posters? Is it paintings? Is it wood carvings? Things like that. So woodcut prints is what I would.
Yeah.
Although I could get into carpentry. So I, so yeah. So it is weird because I like the work that I do. There's a great story I can tell. I think it's a great story of just like the moment where I had to decide like who I really wanted to be as an artist, and it was basically saying goodbye to ever being acknowledged by the art world that I was told was the most important thing I should try to get to. So then this is my studio. This is a house within a larger studio space.
It's so cool.
And maybe we can walk around later, but this is my little nook of. I wanted to make like a house of curiosities that I could walk into and do creative work. So that's what it is.
Amazing.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I am so excited to talk to you about subject matter. This idea of, as artists and designers, we're always looking for, we have this like unique challenge put in front of us. Even abstract artists, I think, of trying to choose subject matter to convey ideas. Even people who are doing logos and branding, like, you still have to think very consciously about the things that you are drawing, the things that you are showing, and to figure out if it's conveying the right message. And I feel like you do such a good job of, like, you have such a great mix of all different kinds of things, and you do such a good job of having them all say precisely what you want them to say in not a trite or overdone way, which I think is something that I see younger artists, maybe younger designers who haven't done as much in terms of like studying art history or what else is going on out there, is that they might choose to use a subject matter that's like overdone.
Yeah.
And you do a really good job of like, how can I take this? How can I use this thing that's going to convey exactly what I want to say, and like maybe take it a step further or 2 steps further. And it's like poetry, honestly.
I mean, I think it's in the, I was scribbling over to the side to put in my diary tonight. That's a really nice compliment to you. Is the invitation of design is to say as much as you can with as little as possible. And I'm not a great logo maker. I think if you're an artist or a designer out there, eventually somebody knows, like, can you make a logo for my business?
Yeah.
And I don't do that anymore because it's a very particular job. And people who do that get paid a lot of money, but they're really good at it. And I started, one guy got mad at me because he was like, would you design a logo for my company? I was like, sure, $10,000. And he's like, what? You're trying to be a dick? I'm like, no, that's actually how much it costs.
Yeah.
You thought you're going to base your whole business brand off something for like $200, like that I worked on for 3 months? Like it just is this kind of, if we were friends, I might help you out, but we're not. You're just straight from the internet. All that I'm saying is just because you're an artist doesn't mean you can do everything. And really part of it is like, what am I good at? And it's like, it's just because you play the guitar doesn't mean you can write a symphony. It's like, but
logos are the symphonies of the design world.
Yeah. So for me, I'm always just like, what is interesting about this? How can I do multiple iterations of it? What could I take away from this? What if I like try to blow it up somehow, like move things around? And iPads are great. Like take the image and then like carve off part of it, or take away these. Like it's always kind of, we're molding it into the simplest thing. I'll say, here's something that was really formative to me as an artist. So over a decade ago, there was a time where I got Scott the Painter is because I used to do a lot of live painting, like at events and stuff. So I'd make usually around a 4 foot by 3 foot image, a real painting that wasn't crappy looking in about an hour or less. I went on tours with bands, I did churches, I did big conferences, schools, things like that. And for a season of my life, I got hired by this church in Houston, Texas to be their artist in residence, so as to work with the community as an artist. And I painted a painting every Sunday, every service. I made 5 services a Sunday. So I made 5 4 foot by 3 foot paintings in a day. No, that's not Saturday night, 4 on Sunday. And what I learned from doing that, sometimes it'd be the same painting, but over and over and over again, and you change it and adapt it. Sometimes it'd be like, as I was listening, it would just progress and be a different thing. But what I learned from that was really valuable, which is like, the third, fourth, or fifth paintings usually go better. Sometimes there's magic in the first go. Yeah. But, trying it again. And I think that there's this, maybe it's a lack of commitment, maybe it's laziness. But often when I see somebody's work and they want to critique about it, I'm like, you should paint that 3 more times. Meaning, like, I don't think just because you did it once, you think you're done? No. Like, the masters, they would do practice paintings, they would lay out, they would plan, they would do multiple paintings for one thing. The movie Gravity, they made that movie 3 times. They made an animated version of it, they made a computer graphics version of it, and then they made the actual movie of it. Like,
that's
it
insane.
Is the repetition, it is the making of multiple things. And so, I always say with people who don't understand design is like, you don't pay a designer for the one image they come to you. Yeah. You pay them for the 100 images they throw away to get close to that one image. That's what you're paying. So it is that process of like doing it over, mixing it up, confronting the cliche. Usually your first thing is like, it's like, yeah, that's pretty obvious. And then I'm just like, not obvious. What would and I'm very much, I work with a lot of like symbols, meaning objects or images that maybe have a twist, a certain kind of thing that doesn't exist there. Like I have this one right here of this rollerblade with snails on it, and this is I did a whole series about called Grace for Your Pace, because usually like what we want to have happen is so much slower than what happens, or what we want to have happen is faster than what actually happens. Everything's just a lot slower than it. And so I have this one. There's one back there, which is my favorite, which is like a ski jumper, but they're on caterpillars. There's another one with like a race car with tortoises. You know, and so it's that kind of
good.
Juxtaposing the idea, but yeah, in that it's just like what are we trying to say? I'm always trying to like, what's the picture to the thing we're trying to say?
Yeah.
But I'm interested.
Yeah. Okay, so for every guest that I have, I always ask them to bring a beverage that we will play a drinking game with. And I usually ask them to bring something that has a label that they are drawn to, just like as an artist or designer, so it doesn't have to be anything alcoholic, just something a label for a drink that you think is cool and you've just always wanted to buy it. And so mine is from Graft, and it's Birds of Paradise Moscow Mule Cider.
Ooh, that's nice.
6.9%. So not too bad.
Not too bad.
Scott, what do you have?
I'm gonna show my cards here. The one that I already drank was my Starbucks Frappuccino. And then before we even got the podcast started, I drank it. So then I went and got a Spindrift Pamplemousse, a grapefruit. Which I do like the Spindrift labels.
I like that label better than the Frappuccino.
Yeah, oh, for sure. What? With all the power of Starbucks, what is this?
What is this?
What the hell?
Yeah, I love the color blocking of the Spindrift.
Yeah, the two-tone, the fruit in the middle, this serif font. Very nice. Very
Oof.
It's like a Aslan. Yeah, I love it. And then it's really well done. It's very simple. I like the organicness of the fruit in contrast to the sharp edges of the font. There you go. Big fan, Spindrift.
There you go.
We'll take your sponsorship any day if you want to work together.
So the word that we're going to use as our drinking game word, I already took one sip of this and it's pretty gross. So I want to choose a word that we're not going to say very much because it's not good. I'm sorry, Graft. The label is gorgeous.
Alpaca.
What?
Hegemonic. Alpaca.
Alpaca.
Ubiquitous.
No, the word is going to be universal.
Universal. Oh wow. Okay.
I think we might say that word.
Next up, we have Richard Rohr talking about his new book, The Universal Christ.
No!
Okay.
It's not good. There's like too much. It's like ginger and cinnamon, which are like, it's not a good combo. I don't like it. Okay.
You're saying it's a later on in the evening drink. That's what you're saying.
It's like
when you don't care.
Yeah, when you don't care, you drink this.
Partnered with spicy food, would that be a good mixture, or would it just compete?
Oh yeah, maybe with like Indian food, it might be good.
There we go.
Or like Turkish food. Yeah. Anyway, okay, so we were talking about subject matter and how you choose, like the way that you're describing just like these iterations. And I know like you do so much storytelling too for your job. It's almost like how people write jokes. Mm-hmm. Like you come up with the joke, you have the obvious punchline, and then you take it one step further and you might like take out a few things so that the audience is making like a further leap. Mm-hmm. This is how I think of like really good jokes. It's like the audience, if they're smart enough, they can make that further leap with you without you having to fill in the blank. And that like almost makes it funnier. Mm-hmm. And I feel like it's the same with subject matter for art. It's like if you can take it just a couple more steps further and you let them fill in the blanks, it becomes that much more, that much better. They have that much more ownership of it. Yeah. Which I think is really cool.
It makes me think of something on the opposite though, which I've never loved, is how there can be such a lack of explanation about art, which I think is very unkind and inhospitable. Like, for example, I went long ago, my wife and I were in Philadelphia, and I went to the museum that's there. And it's great. It's got really famous works like Marcel Duchamp's New Descending Staircase, #2 is there. All these things that like I studied in college. And we paid like $35 to go to it. And we're walking around, and I remember just after like 3 hours, it was cool, but I was still like, you know, this still isn't as exciting as like a rock show. You know, like I'm like, it still could be more exciting. This is a big loop to come back to what we're talking about.
Okay, I'm with you.
Which a friend of mine who's a painter was just like, whatever you're going and look, like the art you're trying to find is the art you should be making.
Mm-hmm.
And what I wanted at that art gallery, they had a whole like Renoir painting exhibit. And I was like, I want like Renoir to be here. And I want him to be like, hey, come, Mr. Scott, come with me and let me show you my drawings. This is my neighbor, Sophie. This is her laundry. You know, like, why did he make all this stuff? I wanted somebody to explain, like, where did this stuff come from?
Yeah.
I can look at it and think it's beautiful and stuff, but some context is really helpful.
Yeah.
And I've talked to a lot of people because I watched people just kind of walking around the museum going, I think I should know what this giant canvas with a red circle is, you know, like, and I was like, you don't, because this is embedded in a conversation that was happening in the 60s and 70s.
Yeah.
And this the response to that conversation. But if you don't know what that conversation is, you're just like, I don't know what this is. You know? And I was like, whatever I want to do, I want to give at least some bridge work to people. I don't want it to be like, let me hold your hand and explain it away, because art explained away is not the point.
Yeah.
But I do think like I do think that for me, I'm always like, I want you to have to not like get a deciphering code from the deserts of Egypt to understand what I was doing. Like,
or the kind of art who's like, if you have to ask, you don't get it. Like that.
Yeah. There's like a certain snobbery, and it's like, actually, maybe you're just not a very good art communicator.
Yeah.
if people don't get it, it's maybe like, because it's, and I understand like in certain other mediums of like abstract expressionism or stuff like that, it's like, you know, it's a different language. It's not trying to explain things in our language, but I just think that there is the audience is part of it too.
Yeah.
And so, but yes, even things that it is amazing when you think things are like very obvious and people are like, I still don't get it. And you're like, oh wow, okay, well, maybe now. So I think there's both sides. I think there's a bit of like
you got to thread the middle.
Sometimes artists in art world can be like so exclusive that people just don't know. And then sometimes like we're dealing with like a culture and a generation that just doesn't know how to like interpret and think through things. They've never been really taught to do that stuff. And so just helping people go like, what do you think these images mean? And what do you think, what is the connection? Where do you see things happening? You know? Like,
yeah.
Because people watch a lot of TV and it's just like, let me tell you how to think about everything versus let me examine and think and contemplate on this.
Yeah. Yeah.
Obviously, when we say arts, there's such a huge swath of like what that is, you know, like anything from like Kara Walker to like, you know, I'm trying to think of a non-painter, Erickson, who like did those big sculptures.
I was going to say Jerry Seinfeld.
Jerry Seinfeld, yes.
Yeah.
Is it a corn? Is it a nut? What's the deal?
What's the deal?
But I feel like you and I have very similar ideas when it comes to art. Is that like we want to use our art to invite people in to conversation and invite people into like something that can be experienced communally and have like have people have like a similar impression, a similar experience when they see a piece of art that sort of brings us closer to them and them closer to each other. And that's kind of where I like to live. So it's like not, you know, I don't want to be like super commercial, but I also don't want to be like super highbrow. I want to be for the people, but in like a nice way.
I want to sell out. I mean, or cash out. I wouldn't mind. Remember when I found out, like, it's so funny because I'm right at the end of Gen X. So I'm technically a Gen Xer. And there was a time growing up where the worst thing in the world would be if your art went mainstream. You know, like, especially with music, it's like, oh man, they sold out. They're on a commercial. And now it's funny how it's totally pivoted to, oh, good for them. They got that Nissan commercial. They're finally getting paid.
Yeah.
Like,
they're finally getting paid.
They're finally getting paid. It's just like has switched. And I'm like, I remember like Feist turned down $10 million to McDonald's for using her song 1, 2, 3, 4 on a commercial. And I was just like, girl, I get it. You're the artist. You're like one of my favorite musicians, but nobody gives a shit. Who cares? If they used it for a Big Mac commercial, it'll be forgotten.
And did they end up using it for an Apple commercial too?
$10 million. Yeah, I think she got an Apple commercial, so that was
probably close to $10 million.
They probably paid off.
Yeah.
She's probably okay.
Scott, thank you so much for being here. Tell all of the people where they can find you, website, social, any of it, home address.
I'm most active social media on Instagram and some on TikTok. But I'm if you want to have direct, I do Substack, and that's where a lot of stuff is coming. And then I'm not touring any shows right now, but I'll communicate through those outlets, and maybe I'll come to your part of the world.
And maybe he might have a book coming out later.
Oh, I do have a book coming out October 7th, 2025. That's going to change the world. But we still have another year.
Yeah. Thank you so much.
It's great to be with you.
We'll see you next month.